And we begin at 11 with yet another legal blow to Oregon's brand new gun control law. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko.
And I'm Laurel Porter. Today, a judge indicated one of the most controversial parts of the measure may violate the state's constitution.
Alma McCarty is in the newsroom. And Alma, this same judge has already pressed pause on other parts of the law.
Yeah, David, Laurel, with the whole law now on hold, it could be quite a while. We're talking months, if not years, before Measure 114 goes into effect, if it ever does. A law professor at Willamette University explained defendants supporting the gun control measure have to win in both federal and state court.
In Eastern Oregon, Judge Robert Raccio put a pause on two parts of Measure 114, the gun control initiative that voters narrowly passed in November.
The way the situation's been framed to the court is we have a permit to purchase component of ballot measure 114 and a large capacity magazine prohibition. Those are the two issues, as I understand them, as they've been framed to me.
After Tuesday's hearing in Harney County, the judge took action on that first component, ruling that the permit to purchase requirement cannot go into effect until the state notifies the court that process is in place and operational. As Professor Norman Williams with Willamette University's College of Law explains, that's sure to take a while.
It's not just a question for the Oregon State Police. It's really a question for every county sheriff's office and every city's police department as to how fast they can get the permitting procedures up and running.
Then on Thursday, the state court judge released a written ruling putting the high-capacity magazine ban on hold until the court decides whether the ban is constitutional. Judge Raccio expressed doubts, writing that the large-capacity magazine bans promote public safety is mere speculation.
That ban cannot go into effect while we conduct a full trial on the merits of the ban on high-capacity magazines.
Williams expects that will also take weeks or months, and he believes the Harney County judge's word won't be the final say.
I think it's inevitable that the Oregon Supreme Court will be asked to decide this, but that's probably years away.
It's worth noting Measure 114's so-called severability clause, meaning if a court finds that one part of it is unconstitutional, that doesn't mean the whole measure fails.
So even if the state courts ultimately decide that the ban on high-capacity magazines is unconstitutional, that will not necessarily stop the permit to purchase requirements from going into effect.
Now, lawsuits against Measure 114 have also been filed in federal court. Williams said because this is playing out in both state and federal court, it can get a bit confusing to understand. But at this point, the measure remains in limbo and has not gone into effect. Laurel?
It sounds like we'll be watching this for a very long time. Thank you, Alma. Let's take a live look over downtown Portland tonight, where it is a chilly 37 degrees. Joe Ranieri's in for Matt tonight. And Joe, it sounds like it's going to feel even colder.
How's the upper teens to low 20s sound to you, Laurel? Yeah, it's going to be bitterly cold here in the next couple of hours. We're already experiencing that out the door this evening, and it's just going to get worse heading into the early morning hours. This is what we woke up to earlier today. Overnight lows in the mid to the upper 20s, although this was not the coldest morning we've seen so far this fall, but it's definitely been feeling like winter, just under a week away from the start of winter. And yeah, it's going to be feeling like it by tomorrow. Won't be looking like it, but look at some of these temperatures across the east side of the state. Lakeview, -8 earlier. Burns East side temperature of -4. So as we go throughout the hour-by-hour forecast, this model is showing basically from Longview all the way down into Eugene in the central and southern part of the Willamette Valley. Temperatures are going to be dropping into the upper 20s, low 30s. I'm expecting to see a few locations outside of the metro area, anywhere in the low to mid 20s. You factor in the wind chill, it's going to be feeling a lot colder than that. And as we look at the winds, they're going to be picking up throughout a good part of the day tomorrow and into the afternoon. They'll start to taper off. But again, gusts near the gorge will be close to 40 miles an hour. If you're going to be spending any time outside at all tonight or a good part of tomorrow, you're going to want to make sure you have a heavy jacket and extra layers. I'll talk more about your detailed forecast in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Joe. And you think about what that means for people now living on the streets, because in our homeless crisis tonight, it appears Multnomah County is not ready to financially back the Portland mayor's new plan. Commissioners unanimously voted to approve millions of dollars toward rental assistance for families, as opposed to directing it toward funding sanctioned homeless camps. So let's drill down here. The county had $28 million to allocate from Metro Supportive Housing Assistance Tax. $15 million will now go toward helping tenants pay for rent. Another $1 million will be spent to get people into homes more quickly. And then the remaining 12 goes into a contingency fund. Incoming County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson had previously voiced support for the mayor's plan, but today she voted with her fellow commissioners.
I also want to clearly state that I am strongly supportive about the investments we're making today with these dollars. $15 million of which will go to rental assistance to keep individuals and families housed.
Now, Mayor Ted Wheeler and Commissioner Dan Ryan say they are disappointed in the vote with the coming change in leadership at the county. At this point, though, it is unclear if and when commissioners plan to reconsider that request for funding.
To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines, the man known as the jogger rapist will be released from prison tomorrow. Richard Gilmore has been behind bars for more than 30 years. He admitted to attacking 9 women and girls in the 70s and 80s, but due to a statute of limitations, he was only convicted of 1 rape. Gilmore will only be considered a low-risk offender during his supervision, meaning the community won't get updates on exactly where he's living. We do know he'll go at first to transitional housing in Northwest Portland.
Police are asking folks to keep an eye out for a truck they say was involved in a deadly hit and run in North Portland. Investigators just released these images from the crash back on October 26th. 19-year-old Miko Jackson was hit and killed while crossing North Interstate at Graham. Police say he was in a marked crosswalk near the Max platform. They describe the suspect's truck as a green or teal Ford Ranger from the 1990s.
Multnomah County commissioners unanimously voted in favor of a ban on selling flavored tobacco and nicotine products. It's set to start in January of 2024. Supporters say the goal is to keep tobacco away from kids and teens. Opponents worry, though, about the impact on businesses. Washington County passed a similar ban last year, but a judge overturned it. The county is now appealing that decision. Today in Clark County, the machine recount of Washington's 3rd congressional district race began. That race pitted Democrat Marie Gluesenkamp Perez against Republican Joe Kent. Our Pat Doris took a look at how the recount is being run tonight on The Story.
This recount will affect all 7 counties that make up the 3rd congressional district. So each of the counties are going to have to go through this. Clark County just has the most votes to get through. Joe Kent's campaign requested a machine recount and will have to pay nearly $49,000 to make that happen. A machine recount is only an audit of the undervotes, which is when a voter does not make any choice in that specific race. We asked the county auditor to explain the process and those monitoring it.
There are 3 stations we have where we're examining those undervoted ballots. So we have two county employees, 2 elections office employees at each station who are pulling up the ballots, pulling up the batch. So ballots get scanned in batches, and then in those batches we've identified what ballots have the undervotes. So they're pulling up the batches, then they're pulling the ballot out of the batch, then they're looking at the ballot, and then looking at the that exact race to see if it was properly recorded as an undervote. So those 2 people are at each of those 3 stations. And then we have 1 observer from each of the 2 campaigns, 1 observer from the Kent campaign, 1 observer from the Perez campaign at each of those stations. And then in Clark County, we have 3 organizations that provide certified election observers: the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, and the League of Women Voters. And we're allowing 1 representative of each of those organizations to also be in that room.
After all the counting is complete, the Clark County Canvassing Board will meet next Tuesday to certify any changes in the vote totals. But if you're hoping the outcome of the race will change, the chances are almost certainly it will not. Kent would need to make up more than 2,600 votes to change the outcome. And in Clark County, there's only 2,400 votes. So the likelihood of him getting all of those, plus another 200 or so from the other counties in the district, is about as slim chances get.
You can watch the story each weekday at 6 o'clock right here on KGW for more in-depth coverage of the big issues affecting our community.
The head of a Portland nonprofit who was put on leave last week has now returned as CEO. Cameron Witten runs Brown Hope. That's a nonprofit focused on racial justice. Recently announced a guaranteed income program for 25 black families. Now, Witten sent out a series of tweets this morning after meeting with the board of directors last night. The board voted to reaffirm him as CEO. Now, last week, the board president put Witten on leave over what it called multiple serious allegations. It is still unclear exactly what those allegations are, and the Oregon Department of Justice has already announced it plans to investigate.